My name is Renata Coleman. I'm 33, and I'm an accountant, which means I knew exactly what $132,500 looked like on the day my mother decided it belonged to my sister. It was a Wednesday in June. I was at my desk reconciling a client's ledger when my mother's name lit up my phone. Her voice bright as a parade. "We added Simone to the account, sweetheart, so she can finally get her start." I watched my cursor blink on the screen, then said, "Funny, I cashed it all out. There's $6.75 left." But here's what none of them knew. The money was never the worst part. The worst part was a single sheet of paper with a doctor's signature on it, from a doctor who never wrote it. What my family did next put my own mother across a table from a fraud investigator and put me in front of a choice I wouldn't wish on anyone. Welcome back to Quiet Fire Stories, where family secrets come to light and quiet people finally speak. This channel is about boundaries, betrayal, and the moment enough finally becomes enough. If a story like this speaks to you, drop a comment below and hit subscribe, because you won't want to miss how this one ends. To make sense of that call, I have to take you back to March. I live alone in a small apartment in Atlanta with a gray tabby named Ledger and a spice rack organized alphabetically. I do taxes for a living. I find the missing dollar. It's not glamorous, but it bought me a quiet life. Scholarship, night shifts at a diner, an entry-level cubicle, 11 years of showing up. In my family, though, my job title was never accountant. It was the responsible one. That title came with duties nobody ever listed out loud. I did my parents' taxes every spring, free of charge, at their kitchen table in Fairview Grove. When my sister's car loan needed a cosigner last year, guess whose name went on the line? When Simone's gym membership started billing my card, a temporary thing, she said, it stayed temporary for 11 months. I paid, I fixed, I smoothed, and told myself that was love. Here's the thing about being the responsible one. You don't get thanked, because responsibility gets treated like weather. Nobody thanks the sky for raining. My mother called me her rock, and I never noticed that rocks are things people stand on. The account started with my grandmother. Odessa was my mother's mother, a woman who ironed dish towels and paid cash her whole life, and she was the one person in my family who ever really saw me. In 1999, when I was 7, my grandfather's small life insurance policy paid out, and Odessa took $4,200 of it and opened a custodial account in my name, with my mother listed as custodian. "This is for the one who counts pennies," she told me, her hand on my shoulder like a clothespin. "One day they'll all count on you, honey. Make sure you still have some left." When I turned 21, the account transferred to me alone. By then, it had grown to around $9,800. I treated it like a garden. Automatic contributions every month, 11 years of boring index funds through every market panic. By this spring, it sat at $132,500. My retirement, my proof that a diner girl could build something. But in my mother's mouth, it never had my name on it. She called it the family fund, light as a joke, every single time. Once, years ago, I corrected her. "It's my retirement account, Mom." She laughed the way you laugh at a child who says something adorable and wrong. "Family doesn't keep score," she said. I remember thinking it was a sweet saying. I hadn't done the math on it yet. Now let me tell you about my sister. Simone is 28, 5 years younger than me, and she's been about to find her path for a full decade. First the candle studio, which my parents covered when it folded after 7 months. Then a life coaching certificate that produced exactly one client, our aunt. Then resin art. Then a podcast that never aired. Every chapter began with a family dinner where Simone glowed and ended with a quiet transfer of somebody else's money. She lives rent-free in my parents' basement, in a bedroom my father drywalled for her when she was 30 days from eviction. I want to be fair, because fair is my job. Simone isn't cruel. She's what happens when nobody ever lets a person hit the ground. My mother built her a world with no floor and no bill, and my sister decorated it. That spring, the new dream was a wellness studio. Logo already designed, sage green, a sprig of eucalyptus over the S. Nobody mentioned money, which in my family is exactly how you know money is the entire subject. Then, on a Wednesday in March, my mother texted, "Sunday dinner, 6. Family business to discuss. I sat in my parked car and read it 3 times, feeling my stomach do the thing it does during an audit when the numbers are about to go sideways. Sunday, the good tablecloth was out. Always a sign the ask was big. Over dessert, my mother folded her hands. "We've been talking," she said, and the "we" did not include me. "Simone's studio needs $55,000 to open. And honey, your investment account is just sitting there." She said it the way you'd say the ladder is just sitting in the garage. She even knew the balance, close enough. I'd listed it myself on an asset worksheet during a family paperwork day back in 2021, one tidy line I'd regretted ever since. I set down my fork and kept my voice level, because level is the only speed I have. "That account is my retirement, Mom. It started with Grandma's money." The answer is no. But I'm happy to help Simone build a real business plan. Silence you could balance a spoon on. Simone's chin trembled on cue. My father reached for potatoes he didn't want. My mother smiled at me, soft and disappointed. "Renata, family doesn't keep score." There it was again, that pretty little sentence. For the first time I heard the fine print inside it. I said no twice more before I left, hugging everyone goodbye. Driving home, I told myself it was settled. But at the door, my mother had squeezed my hand and said, "We'll figure something out." She wasn't asking anymore. I just didn't know yet what she thought there was left to figure. The weeks after that dinner were quiet, which should have been my first clue. My family does not do quiet after a no. Instead, my mother got curious about my health. Calls about my sleep, my stress, my doctor. Then Simone texted, asking if I still had the folder from our family paperwork day. Copies of everyone's documents from back when we'd planned things out after Grandma's stroke. "Mom wants to update the file," she said. I told her I'd look. Then I sat very still. Here's what I do for a living. I reconcile. I take 2 sets of records that are supposed to match, and I find the place where they don't. Sudden concern about my sleep from a woman who calls stress a rich person's hobby. Questions about my doctor. A request to round up documents. Individually, small change. Added together, a discrepancy. That night I pulled my file box down and went through it with a highlighter, like a client under audit. In the estate planning folder, I found a copy of a document I'd signed in 2021, and mostly forgotten. The original wasn't in my box. It was in my mother's house. I drove to Fairview Grove that Saturday and found my father in the garage, half inside the hood of the Bronco he's been restoring since I was in high school. "Dad, what is Mom planning?" He wiped his hands on a red rag. "Slow, buying time." "Your mother handles the paperwork, Renata. Always has." That one sentence was the whole man, an excuse, a filing system, and a confession, folded together. As I backed out of the driveway, he called after me, louder than usual. "Whatever happens, your mother loves you girls the same." People don't say whatever happens unless something is scheduled to happen. The call came on a Tuesday night in April, a 4-minute voicemail my mother had accidentally pocket-dialed from her own kitchen. I heard pans clattering, water running, then her voice, casual as a grocery list, talking to my sister. "Once we're on the account, the studio deposit goes out first." Simone's voice smaller. "What if she finds out?" My mother, with no more weight than a weather report. "By then it's done, she'll be angry, then she'll get over it, she always does." I played it twice. The second time, I wasn't listening for the plan, I was listening to that last part. "She always does." There it was, my entire job description in this family, printed on a 4-minute voicemail. I saved it, not as a weapon, but as an anchor, so I would never again doubt my own arithmetic. My best friend Camille is an estates attorney. Over coffee, I let her hear the voicemail through my earbuds. Her jaw set. "This recording is a warning, not a case," she said. "Intending to get on an account isn't a crime." Then she asked the question that rearranged my whole spring. "After your grandmother's stroke, when your family did that big paperwork day, what exactly did you sign?" In 2021, the whole family had sat with an attorney and done the responsible thing: wills, health directives, and a springing power of attorney, a document that stays dormant unless I'm declared incapacitated by a doctor, at which point my named agent can act on my finances as if she were me. My agent, chosen back when the word felt like a formality, my mother, Yvette. "Who keeps the original?" Camille asked, gentle. "My mom," I I said. In the filing cabinet in her hallway. If you've ever signed something because you trusted family more than your own gut, tell me in the comments. You weren't the only one. And subscribe, because what my mother did with that one piece of paper still makes my hands go cold. I did everything right, and I need you to hear that. Because what happened anyway is the point. Thursday morning, I signed a revocation of the 2021 power of attorney in front of a notary and named Camille as my new agent. I mailed certified copies to the family attorney and to Meridian Trust, the brokerage that had held my account since Grandma opened it. I changed my passwords, set up alerts on everything, moved my financial mail to a locked box. Textbook. Airtight. Except Camille called that Friday with the part they don't put in the textbook. The revocation is valid the moment you sign it, she said. But Meridian is a machine. Documents go into a queue. If someone walks in first with the old POA and a doctor's letter saying you're incapacitated, the firm has to sort out the conflict. And while they sort, they freeze everything. Months. Lawyers. You'd be the one proving you're competent. I sat with that. Grandma's seed money, 11 years of contributions, locked in a vault while my family argued in writing that I was too broken to speak for myself. There was exactly one way to make my account not worth stealing. Empty it. People imagine cashing out $132,500 feels like a heist movie. It feels like homework. I spent the weekend at my kitchen table with a spreadsheet, deciding which positions to sell so the tax hit landed soft. Monday, I opened a new account at Anchor Point Financial, titled In My Name Alone. Fresh email, two-factor everything, alerts on alerts. Tuesday night, cursor hovering over the confirm button, I hesitated. Not from fear of taxes or of my mother. It was that clicking meant admitting, in writing, that my family had become weather I needed shelter from. Grandma's voice came back. Make sure you still have some left. I clicked. The next 6 days were the strangest of my life, completely silent and completely loud at once. Every morning I woke up, fed the cat, went to work, and checked my balance like a farmer checking the sky. The transfers went out in batches, wired to Anchor Point. $132,000, down to $80,000, to $35,000, to $10,000. Meridian's fraud desk called to verify one transfer. Yes, I said. This is Renata. I authorize it. You have no idea what those words felt like in my mouth, after weeks of learning that, somewhere across town, my own mother was assembling paperwork to say I wasn't competent to speak them. On the last transfer, I didn't zero it out. I typed a figure that left exactly $6.75 behind, down to the cent, a signature only 2 people alive could read. Then I closed the laptop and made tea, hands steady, which frightened me a little. Camille came over that Friday with takeout. Why not confront them? Lay it out, she asked. Confront them with what? A kitchen voicemail? Mom will cry. Simone will post something about toxic energy. I've been having that conversation for 30 years. I could write both sides of it from memory. I told her the truest thing I knew. I'm not angry. I'm done being the bank. That weekend, done became a checklist. I started paperwork to get my name off Simone's car loan. I canceled the card, quietly feeding her gym membership. I emailed my parents that a colleague would handle their taxes this year at the firm's standard rate. Small hinges, closing one by one. The house of my family wouldn't notice the draft until winter. The $6.75 wasn't random. When I was 13, I babysat all summer and saved exactly that much for a movie with friends. My sister, then 8, found the envelope and spent it on doll accessories. When I demanded justice, my mother knelt down, gathered thief and victim both into her arms, and said, "Sisters share. Family doesn't keep score." No one paid me back. 20 years later, I gave the family exactly what they'd given me. It was the only thing in that account they were ever owed. May was the strangest month, because I was the only one at the table who knew the play had already ended. My mother turned negotiating sweet, lunches, compliments, sudden warmth about my apartment and my hair. Simone posted "big things coming" with sage green graphics. At my father's birthday dinner, my mother asked, light as lint, whether I could send her a photocopy of my license and insurance card for the family file. I declined. A flicker crossed her face and disappeared under the next smile like a fish under ice. What happened during the first week of June, I reconstructed later, from documents and timestamps. A package arrived at Meridian Trust. The real 2021 power of attorney, notarized and legitimate, and behind it, a letter on forged medical letterhead from my actual doctor's practice. It declared me suffering from a major depressive episode with cognitive impairment, unable to manage my financial affairs, and stated that activation of the power of attorney was medically appropriate. It was dated the same week my mother had been complimenting my hair and asking for my license. A cover sheet requested Meridian recognize my mother as acting agent and add Simone as an authorized party with discretion. The letterhead was right. The margins were right. The clinical language ran smooth as tap water. My mother spent 17 years behind the front desk of a medical office. I'm not saying anything, I'm just showing you the ledger. The first ripple reaching me was an automated email. Documents received, under review, no names. I called the 800 number and got a polite young man who could only say a power of attorney package was in processing. I called Camille. Don't call them again, she said. Don't explain. Everything in writing from now on. If that package is what we think it is, the next call you get won't be from customer service. Before we go on, if this story is landing anywhere near your own life, do one thing for yourself this week. Pull out every document you've ever signed for family and read it like a stranger wrote it. Then subscribe and stay with me, because the phone call that came next is why this story has a fraud file number instead of a family one. It was a Tuesday in June, mid-morning, when my mother called. The moment from the start of this story. Sweetheart, it's done. We added Simone so she can access your $132,000. I know you were scared, honey, but one day you'll thank me. I looked at my blinking cursor and gave her the number the way I'd give it to any client. Funny, I cashed it all out weeks ago. There's $6.75 left. The silence on the line had furniture in it. No, that's the family fund. It never was, Mom. Ask Grandma's paperwork. In the background, Simone's voice went up like a kettle. She's lying. Check the app. My mother's voice came back shaking, and here is the part I need you to sit with. She did not say we're sorry. She said, how could you do this to your sister? 48 hours later, an unknown number called. Denise Okafor, Fraud Prevention, Meridian Trust, level as a ruler. She walked me through it. When a POA package claims incapacity, compliance calls the physician's office to confirm. Except the practice had no record of any such letter, no such assessment. The signature didn't match. The package moved to the fraud unit that same afternoon. To be clear, she told me before hanging up, there is nothing wrong with you. There is something wrong with this letter. I read the scanned letter alone at my kitchen counter. My full name, spelled out in clean clinical type. Major depressive episode with cognitive impairment. Unable to manage her financial affairs. The date lined up exactly with the week my mother had been fishing for my documents. She hadn't been worrying about me, she'd been drafting me. Within a week, my phone was a switchboard. Relatives asking if I was struggling. The family group chat filled with an old photo of me captioned, "Please keep our girl in your prayers." The same fiction they'd built to steal from me had become the alibi for having tried. Nobody, not once, said sorry. Then my father texted, "Call me, just you." We met in a hardware store parking lot. "The paper from the doctor," he said. "There's a witness line. That's my handwriting." He told me my mother had said it was protection paperwork, and he'd believed her. Then he asked the thing he'd actually come to ask. Not how I was doing, but to let it go for her sake. "She's not sleeping, Renata. This could really hurt her." I saw then which side of the family my father had always been on. Not my mother's side, the side of quiet. Before I signed anything else, my Aunt Renata called, not to take sides, just to tell me where my mother had learned the math. In 1983, my 18-year-old mother had signed over every paycheck to support her siblings, was never repaid, and was told by her own mother, "Family doesn't keep score." My mother wasn't collecting money from me. She was collecting justice for a debt from 40 years earlier. And I was the only one at the table earning enough to cover it. Understanding is a strange gift. It explains everything and excuses nothing. Camille came over the night I signed the affirmation of non-authorization Meridian had sent. It stated plainly, I was not incapacitated. I had not authorized the activation. The medical letter was not written by my physician. Once you sign, Camille said, Meridian has to refer this. That's the rule book, not a choice. Dr. Ashworth's office already filed their own complaint. This goes forward with you or without you. Then what does my signature change? I asked. Without you, it's a paperwork case. With you, it has a victim who says so. I signed my full name, and we faxed it at midnight. 11 days later, a detective's card was in my mailbox. That same week, my mother appeared at my apartment for the first time in 5 years, holding soup like a white flag. She admired the cat, complimented my kitchen, reminisced about summers at the lake. Then she set an envelope on my table, not an apology, but a job application for Simone. I just need you to do one thing, she said. Tell the detective it was all a misunderstanding, that I'd agreed to the arrangement. Don't trade your whole family for a piece of paper. I asked her the only question I had left. Mom, are you sorry you did it? The letter, my name, my mind? She reached for her oldest tool. Everything I have ever done, I did for this family. Simone needed a chance. You always land upright, honey. Family doesn't. And I said it with her, quiet, in unison. Keep score. Then I finished it alone. That's why you never noticed I was the only one paying. Her face changed, the flicker of someone realizing the drawer has already been counted. She called me cold, calculated. Then you are no daughter of mine. I picked up her cup and set it in the sink, then opened my front door and held it. Drive safe, Mom. She left the soup behind. The lock clicked, soft as a period at the end of a long sentence. The Economic Crimes Unit works out of a building with all the charm of a filing cabinet, which I found comforting. I gave my statement Thursday morning. The dinner, the voicemail, the liquidation, the $6.75, the forged letter. One detail stood out to the detective. The letter misspelled my middle name as Ray instead of Odessa. A slip only my mother would make, after an old childhood friend she'd once wanted to name one of us for. I signed every page with my full name, Odessa, where it belonged. All my life, my signature had been a service. This was the first one that cost me something and belonged entirely to me. People sometimes ask if I regret it. Here's the honest accounting, 6 months later. Nobody went to prison, and I never wanted that. My mother was accepted into a pretrial diversion program, restitution, a class, dismissal after good behavior if she stays clean. She tells relatives it was a paperwork misunderstanding I blew up, and most of them find that easier to believe than me. Dr. Ashworth's practice tightened their verification procedures. Every letter confirmed by callback now. Simone took the front desk job at the dental practice, the exact application our mother had filled out as a prop for my kitchen table. She's apparently good at it. My father still lives in the garage with the Bronco. My aunt sends me pictures of her tomatoes and never asks me to come home, which is its own kind of love. My money sits at Anchor Point under one name, mine, with Camille as my agent on a new power of attorney that springs only for licensed strangers. My will leaves what I've built to a scholarship for first-generation accounting students. In November, Meridian closed out the old account and mailed me the balance. A check for $6.75. I didn't cash it. It's framed on the wall above my desk, next to a photo of Grandma Odessa. I look at it every Tuesday when I teach a free budgeting class at the library, to a room of women who sooner or later stay after to tell me about a signature they once gave someone because they loved them. I used to believe love meant being the one who always pays. Now I know, in every family that claims it doesn't keep score, somebody is quietly keeping it for you. Keep your own books. Sign nothing out of guilt. Remember that $6.75 of truth is worth more than $132,500 of keeping the peace. That's my story. One forged letter, one emptied account, and $6.75 that finally got repaid. If this reminded you to check your own paperwork, your power of attorney, your beneficiaries, the names on your accounts, take that as your sign and do it this week. If you know someone who's always the responsible one in her family, send her this video. Before you go, if you were in Renata's position, would you have confronted your mother directly at that first Sunday dinner, or handled it quietly, the way she did? Drop your answer in the comments and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next story.